Hey everybody, let's learn form and technique for the kettlebell or dumbbell deadlift. So let's start with the kettlebell. First of all, the setup. Every exercise, very important. You're going to stand for the deadlift directly over the kettlebell. So the handle is literally dividing my feet into a back and a front half. It's as though I'm going to now reach under my body to grab a hold of the kettlebell. And it might feel a little further back than what you're used to. So once you have your feet situated, hips width apart, it's very individual. You're going to come into a big hinge through your hips. So I'm pushing my hips way back behind me, and then I'm taking my hands around the handle of the kettlebell, pulling my chest forward and doing what's called setting the back, right? So taking all the slack out of my arms. This is the setup for the deadlift. Then I push my feet into the floor, exhale to stand up, inhale to lower. All right, let's talk about some common errors with this wonderful exercise. Okay, number one is we start with our feet behind the kettlebell. Rather than on top of the kettlebell, we're behind the kettlebell. So why is this a mistake? Well, now when I come into my big hinge, look at how far away my hips are from the kettlebell. This means that my lower back is going to have to do more than its fair share. So you are going to stand directly over the kettlebell. Yes, it is going to feel like your hands are reaching underneath you and that you are pulling that kettlebell up from underneath you. That is correct. So the closer we can bring our hips to the handle of the kettlebell, the more our hips, aka our butte, get to do the work rather than our lower back. Now, the lower back is working in the deadlift, and that is a great benefit of the deadlift. It makes your lower back stronger. We just don't want most of the work to go into the lower back. We really want these big, strong muscles, the posterior hip, to be doing most of the work. Next, here in the kettlebell deadlift, all is well and good, except that we're just a little soft in our back, right? So this is going to cause a real big leakage of energy, a real inefficiency. When I push my feet into the floor, I'm going to lose a lot of my ability to lift a heavy weight off of the ground because it's all kind of draining through my back, right? So again, we're going to set the back, pull the chest forward, create stiffness in the trunk, and then that should be a nice, clean, efficient transfer from the pushing of my feet into the floor to the rising up of that kettlebell. Another mistake, these are kind of two ends of the opposite spectrum, is that we're either a little squatty, meaning our knees are pushed too far forward, the shin angle is too steep. Notice how my knees are way in front of the handle of the kettlebell. Or I am too straight through my knees and my hips and shoulders are about the same height. So we want to find something in between too squatty and too straight through the knees. Push your shins back a little bit as you pull your chest forward. And that's going to feel like you're right in the middle of two positions, right? It's going to feel like this middle ground where there's a lot of tension, there's a little bit of a sticking point there. And then from that position, you're going to rise up and then retrace your steps back down. Okay, let's say we want to do this exercise with 2 dumbbells. We can use 2 weights, we get a little bit more load that we can lift. Probably going to have my feet a little bit wider apart and maybe even a little turned out. And then I'm going to retrace my steps down, tap the ends of the bells down, stand it up. So notice how my dumbbells are kind of going from a wider to a narrower to a wider position. I don't need to be reaching all the way down to these really low handles. I'm just going to create a little bit of height through the handle by tipping the dumbbells in this way. Now, a question I get a lot is, Laurel, I don't have 2 of the same size weights. Can I still do a deadlift with 1 heavier and 1 lighter weight, whether it's a dumbbell or a kettlebell? My answer is yes. I've got a 20-pound kettlebell. I've got a 44-pound kettlebell. I'm going to do your first set with the heavier bell on one side. Okay. Complete that set. Your body will self-organize around the asymmetrical load, and then for your second set, voila, you'll just switch sides and do that second set like that. Now everyone asks, what if I want to do 3 sets? You know, you could get kind of persnickety about it. Do half the set with the heavy weight on one side, half on the other. Or if you track your workouts, which I hope you do, you write down what side the heavier bell was on for the first set, and then just next time you do the workout, look back at that past workout, start with the heavier kettlebell on the other side for the first set. And that way it kind of all evens out. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you get mostly even on both sides, you're probably fine. Happy posterior chain strengthening.